This is ITV.
Hello everybody, this is Sabi Afoso, the well master original. Any other one is a counterfeit. Guess what? You are watching independent television. And this is where you get it first. It's educative, it's informative, and it's exciting. Independent television, keep watching.
Certainly the best.
Audio Jungle.
State governorship election continues. ITV Radio Meet the Candidates and the Political Parties takes center stage on Wednesday, 16th September 2020. Special guest on the program is Pastor Osage Izeyamu, APC governorship candidate for Edo State governorship election. ITV Radio Meet the Candidates and the Political Parties provides the opportunity for direct engagement with the electorates real time on all issues that will shape Edo Decides 2020. ITV Radio Meet the Candidates and their political parties featuring APC governorship candidate Pastor Sage Izeyamu on Wednesday, 16 September 2020 at 4 p.m. prompt is a must watch. You also have the opportunity to contribute or ask questions via our studio line. Don't miss it.
This election, na continuity don't want vote for.
Clear say this thing when they drink so it don't work.
What do you mean by that?
Which continuity you dey talk about? The one when it be say they go to carry our work for Edo State here, go to give outsiders make they do. Go reach painter when they paint wall, they carry and come from outside, make they call the work for us for here. So now what can tell us now say for the whole of Edo State, nobody go school. My people, the kind person when go feel lead Edo State the way when God want them, go be person when be say they born for here, when grow for here, person when know all the corrupt for each local government and each ward because he let the waka follow those places. Person when get personal relationship with elders, children and women. Now that kind person now go feel lead us well. We don't look at left and right. We even carry light touch looking for afternoon. We see him say the person when go fit do that kind of thing for us. Now be Pastor Osagie Izeyamu. Now go call some my people on the day of election. Make una vote for APC. Make una put hand for where broom day. Now be say you don't vote the simple agenda.
Appreciation. The House of Igbenedion wishes to express deep gratitude to all those who identified with our patriarch, His Excellency Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel Osawawu Igbenedion, JP, the Esama of Benin, during his 86th birthday. We are most obliged for the love openly displayed by friends and well-wishers who, in spite of COVID-19 pandemic, physically attended the events lined up for the birthday anniversary. Our appreciation equally goes to friends and well-wishers across the world who joined in the celebration through ITV live broadcast, Zoom and other social media platforms. We thank the Executive Governor of Edo State, His Excellency Mr. Godwin Enogagase Obaseki, and members of his cabinet, the traditional institution across the country and beyond, members of the diplomatic corps, captains of industry, the clergy across denominations, market women, members of professional bodies, corporate bodies, and others too numerous to mention. May happiness and celebration never depart from your lives. May your kindness. Amen. Signed, Her Excellency Lady Cherry Igbenedion, for the House of Igbenedion.
And the political parties take center stage on Wednesday, 16th September 2020. Special guest on the program is Pastor Osage Izeyamu, APC governorship candidate for Edo State governorship election. ITV Radio Meet the Candidates and the political parties provides the opportunity for direct engagement with the electorates real time on all issues that will shape Edo Decides 2020. ITV Radio Meet the Candidates and the political parties featuring APC governorship candidate Pastor Osage Izeyamu on Wednesday, 16 September 2020 at 4 p.m. prompt is a must watch. You also have the opportunity to contribute or ask questions via our studio line. Don't miss it.
Audio Jungle.
A beautiful evening, and we thank you for creating the time to be part of our program, Meet the Candidates and their Political Parties on Independent Television and Radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okosi, your host on the program. Our guest today is a former Chief of Staff to Edo State Government, a former Secretary to the State Government, a lawyer by profession, and a farmer by training. I have the singular honor and privilege to welcome to our studio this beautiful Wednesday evening Pastor Osagie Izeyamu, the APC Edo State governorship candidate for the 2020 election. Pastor Osagie Izeyamu, many thanks for joining us on the program Meet the Candidates.
Thank you very much, Sonny Duke. Thank you.
Let me just take your mind back a little bit. In 2016, you contested under the platform of the People's Democratic Party. And in 2020, 4 years down the line, you are contesting under the platform of the APC. What has changed?
Well, a lot has changed. Life is very dynamic. I was one of those who founded the APC. We had some domestic quarrel in 2014 over the way congresses were conducted, and a lot of the people that believe in me and work together were of the opinion that they were shortchanged in the Congress, and because we could not resolve it amicably, the resolution was that we should leave, and we left. It wasn't really because of any ideological difference, and because I'd already made up my mind then to contest for governorship. I already had an agenda, the simple agenda. The PDP graciously offered me the ticket, and I contested on that platform. But after the election, it was very clear to me that the party was really not the best in terms of commitment to goals and being able to achieve my own objective in politics, which is to be able to assess government for the benefit of my people. So when God created the opportunity for me to return back to the APC, I came with joy. But I must tell you that I did not come to APC with the mindset that I must run for governorship. I just made up my mind that I needed to return back to a party I helped to found and use the party to see how I could also influence development to my people, because of course every day time is running out, and for me I was determined to ensure that my stay in politics was not wasted. There was no way I was going to tell my people that all the time I was in politics I couldn't do anything for them because I was in opposition. In my local government, for example, Loriamon, there's a lot of backwardness, a lot of underdevelopment. There's no light, there's no water, there are no roads. So it was important for me to go into a party that will be serious enough for me to be able to assess those in government. And APC offered me the opportunity. And as God will have it again, I got the ticket. And today I'm the gubernatorial candidate of the APC. I look forward to Saturday. And I'm very confident that I would win the election, and God will give me the opportunity to actually implement a lot of my dreams for our state and make it a better place.
There are those who feel that you are desperate to be governor of Edo State. In any case, you had the opportunity as Chief of Staff, as SSG, to make an impact, and that there was really nothing to show for it.
Well, I'll be surprised if you want to say that Lucky Igbinedi's government failed, because I've heard you say many times that our government did well. So when you say there's nothing to show for it, Stella Obasanjo Hospital, which unarguably is one of the best hospitals in Edo State, was built during that period. But again, you must know that there's a huge difference between being an aide to the governor and being chief executive. So what I was before was simply an aide and not a chief executive. I want to believe that you know the difference. And then number two, when you say desperate, what do you mean? I have only contested for governorship the second time. When I left office as secretary to government, there was a lot of pressure for me to run for office. I did not run. Most people want to run for office the moment they're in a position of prominence. So I was secretary to government, I could have run, but I didn't run. I waited for years after, and I've only contested once. So I think that we should stop mistaking ambition, determination, focus for desperation. I'm not desperate for anything. If I was desperate, I would never have accepted the result of the first election. It happened, I went to court, Supreme Court gave their verdict, and I was the first to congratulate the person I contested with. So that does not show the character of a desperate person. So we need to be a bit careful with the terms we use so that we don't abuse English.
What's the major thrust of your aspiration this time around?
Well, my aspiration has always been built on the agenda that I have. I've always believed that anyone who is aspiring for office must have a clear-cut agenda of what he wants to do. The scripture says where there's no vision, people perish. And this is what we have suffered, even in the past 4 years, where, we are driving, but nobody has a clear idea about where we are going to. So for me, even 4 years ago, I had an agenda, the simple agenda. And this time again, I'm still consistent with that agenda because I believe in it. So the goal of being in government is to be able to implement this agenda as much as possible to the letter. I believe in it. I believe in every word that is in that agenda, and I believe that it's a roadmap through which we can bring sustainable development in our state. So I intend to pursue vigorously the implementation of the simple agenda.
In 2016, it was the simple agenda. In 2020, it's the same simple agenda. So how do we differentiate both in terms of affecting the lives of the people based on the current realities and the modern realities?
Well, the little differences are that, one, I had to reduce the pages, the content, because people told me the last time that, Pastor, many of us even read your document after the election. It was too bulky, but very, very good. But you know that nobody has the time to read very bulky documents. So why don't you review it and make it a bit short? So I tried to do that, and that is why we have what we have here. Number two, we've also had to look at present-day realities and look at areas where we believe that we should make some emphasis. So that we have also done. But I think that the document is quite realistic. The document is specific. The document is up to date on the issues affecting our state. It might not cover everything, but at least it's a doable document that offers a doable roadmap of what we can do to make progress in our state.
Let's just go a little bit deeper into your simple agenda. What are the key templates as it relates to economic development, security, and health for every state?
Thank you for that question. You see, the simple agenda is actually an acronym. And each alphabet there stands for an agenda we want to pursue. The X represents security and social welfare. The I represents infrastructural development and urban renewal. The M is manpower development and training. The P is public-private partnership. The L is leadership by example. And then the E is employment and empowerment schemes. So this in totality is what we mean by simple agenda. But to be specific, if you look at the word X, the security aspect, I'm of the opinion, and I think many people are, that there's no way Edo will make progress with the present level of insecurity. There are so many people I have met, especially outside our state, who have told me that they would have loved to invest in our state, but the security situation is not appealing. And until we improve on the security, it's going to be difficult for them to come. So we need to invest some money on security, and I think that that alone is going to really improve our economy. There are so many people that would come in, so many investors that would come in, if only they will get the security right. And we're going to invest in it, we're going to make it better. Then the I, of course, is infrastructural development. You also know, too, that a lot of businesses are attracted to areas where you have good infrastructure. So they don't need to bother about roads. They are sure that their trucks will not be damaged by the bad state of the road. They look at accessibility, and that one God has done for us. Edo is very central when you are looking at the Nigerian nation. But we need to work on infrastructure. They look at light, and again, in terms of transmission, in terms of generation, in terms of distribution, Edo is also at the hub. So in terms of location between me and Edo is perfect. But electrification, water, security, roads, these are key areas that we want to implement in the simple agenda. And then, of course, we also want to ensure that we have a lot of skilled manpower. Our state should be a place where companies will know that if they establish, they don't need to look for their workforce from afar. From Edo State, they can get all the technicians, all the experts that they need. And with the kind of universities that we have, with the natural brilliance of our people, if we focus on education and training, we also believe too that that will increase our human capital development. Then, of course, public-private partnership, which deals with the economy squarely. We also think that our state will not make the accelerated progress that we desire if government is doing it alone. Government must interface, government must partner, government must collaborate with the private sector. This has not been done in the past. So this time we intend to change the narrative, and deliberately we are going to identify the private businesses in our state, we are going to dialogue with them, we are going to meet with them, and we think that this intervention is going to increase businesses, and it's also going to ensure that the businesses that we have expand their scope. And of course, when the business environment is right, those outside will come. So everything in the simple agenda is geared towards improving the economy, job creation. Leadership, by example, is having a transparent, open government that would attract people. A government that listens, a government that is accessible. You know, because so many times in the past, I've heard about people wanting to come to our state and they're not able to meet the chief executive. So we need to open governance to them, remove the veil, make it very easy for the chief executive or government officials to be seen. And when they have problems, make it also very easy for us to be able to move in and solve it for them. When you have that kind of atmosphere, I can tell you that businesses will thrive, people will come in, and the economy will boom.
You have said in several fora that if you have the kind of security vote that is operational in the state at the moment, you'll do better security-wise. Are you saying that if you have the opportunity to become the governor of Edo State, you retain security vote in that range, or you would reduce security vote in that range, or you will increase security vote above that range?
You see, what is important is what do you do with security vote? I've also said in several fora that I actually concede that security is not cheap. Nobody will quarrel with how much you spend for security if it's justifiable. If you're able to break it down and say, look at the increased funding I'm giving to security agencies. Look at the number of people I've brought from the vigilante into community policing. And look at how much I'm now spending in terms of stipends I'm paying them monthly. If the figures are there and people look at it, they say, good. And of course, it translates to better security in Edo State. People can sleep, they can go to the farm, they can travel, and there's no harassment, no kidnapping. You'll be applauded. So for me, it's not necessarily the figure that I'm quarreling with, but I'm saying that the increased figure, because before Governor Obaseki came in, the security vote was around 4.5 billion annually. He increased it to 7.5 billion. That is almost a 100% increase. What I would have expected from that is that it's also going to be increased funding for security agencies. But what they were getting 4 years ago when they had that 4.5 billion is still what they are getting now that it's 7.5 billion. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Especially when you know that insecurity is not abating. If it was reducing, I would say, well, perhaps, because the security situation is getting calmer. That's why it's not investing so much. But if it is also so, why did you increase the security vote at a time when you are reducing other overheads? The judiciary, you have reduced it. The legislative arm, you have reduced it. But security vote, you carried up. So if you carried it up, it means that you acknowledge the insecurity and they need to deal with it. But are you doing it? You are not buying equipment. The vigilante groups are almost closing up because the communities can no longer fund them. So that is why you see that our state has become porous. They can't go to the farms, they can't travel on the roads, and that's not good. Farmers cannot go to the farm. Travelers cannot come in. So our state is being closed up and isolated. So if I had the opportunity, and I'm governor, the security vote will be spent in a manner that will bring security results. The security agencies, their funding will increase, will invest in equipment, vehicles, in technology, and then of course I'm very passionate about community policing because I realize that no matter how much I want to fund the police, I have no say in terms of their recruitment. And their number is their number. It's a federation. So it's only a certain number that can come to Edo State. And that number that is coming here cannot cope with the geography and the situation in our state. So it has to be complemented by local content. And if you understand security, you would also know too that the local people tend to know more about their terrain than outsiders. So by the time you bring in vigilante into the security architecture, you are going to find that you will get first-hand information about where criminals are hiding, who is committing what. Like what is also happening in our forest. I gave an example. A lot of people who have been kidnapped, they tell me, oh, they were coming from Mekboma. And by the time they got to Orokosa, they were stopped. People came out from the forest and they were kidnapped. And when you ask the kidnappers, when you ask those who were kidnapped, so where did they take you? Oh, they trailed into the bush. After around 30 minutes, they stopped. That's where they kept them for 4 or 5 days. And that information has been reoccurring. And I'm asking myself, is it that when people are kidnapped, government and security agencies don't debrief them? Because if they debrief them, it's clear that these people are operating not too far from the forest. So why have we not commissioned security agencies, the army, to go into the forest and flush out these people? It has never been done. So it's not that difficult to deal with security situations. It's not that difficult. But you must be able to put money in it. You must have the will. You must be committed to it. So security vote, in my own opinion, is meant to support the security stability of your state. And that's what a chief security officer. If we say that security is in the hands of the federal government, then we have no business holding security vote. Let's look for something else to take. But if we want to collect security vote, then we must as well also concern ourselves with security matters.
Give us insight into the thrust of the simple agenda as it relates to education in Edo State and agriculture.
Well, thank you. Well, let me start with education. We need to improve on our schools. Primary schools, for example, there are no teachers. And it's very sad because no matter how you beautify schools, no matter what you do, you need instructors. You need teachers. We are what we are today because we had good teachers. In most schools I went, especially in the rural areas during my campaign, everywhere it was so, no, we don't have teachers. We don't have teachers. In many schools, just one. So we need to employ teachers. We have to employ teachers. We also need to establish more schools because new communities have sprung up. We are still working on where schools were sited before in the past. And these schools were sited where the population was then. But now new communities, and nobody is thinking about putting schools near them. So that's why you see the kind of horrible traffic you now see in our city center. Because the infrastructure and facilities needed to support communities are not in place. And that's not how you plan cities. And that's why we also talk about urban renewal. When you see a community springing up, you think about schools, you think about markets, you think about police posts. This one will save them from moving from their location to where this is used to be. But in the absence of it, you see traffic moving in large numbers from one direction to another direction because the markets are not in these new communities, the schools are not there, so we need to build schools. And then we need to make our schools more attractive, beautify them, so that when children go to these schools, they feel a sense of belonging and they want to stay. You create an hunger to be in the school environment. So that anytime they are home, they say they want to go to school. So it's deliberate. So we need to beautify our schools. And of course, because of COVID, we also need to begin to look at e-learning, digital education. In the schools we run in Redeemed Christian Church of God, we had to do so. We closed them for a while because of COVID-19, but we realized that, look, this pandemic, nobody knows when it's going to end. Are we going to keep these children indefinitely at home because there's no solution in sight? And we just decided that, well, even if they're at home, let's teach them. And technology, e-learning. So they are at home now, but they are being taught. They are doing exams. And the teachers are still being paid. Rather than saying, oh, because of this, we know we can't pay, we can't go to the classroom. So we have to do that. Some of these things we need to do. Then the secondary schools, Again, we need to make our secondary schools more functional. We need science laboratories. In this technology age, our students should not confront science, real science and laboratories only when they start the university. They need to catch it at an early age and begin to develop an interest in it. So we need to have laboratories. We need to even have libraries. We built a library, a fantastic library, when I was in government. But I think that they have more or less, ignored it now. Even some of the books that were donated by many donor agencies, I heard that they were given to some people sold to some people who are into toiletries, to just carry away. That is sad, because there's no knowledge, like you get in books. I was a voracious reader as a young boy. Every book I see, I read. And it gave me, a world view, just by reading those books. Before I traveled abroad, I already had a clear perception of how the world was because of the books I read. So we need to have libraries, we need to have good teachers, and then I also believe in scholarships, because the basic education policy only covers free education from primary to junior secondary school. So how about senior? So parents who do not have, but their children are brilliant, I think that government should offer scholarship to such children. Then, of course, at the university level, we need to do a lot of tertiary institutions. We need to fund these universities. Unfortunately, if you look at Ambrose Ali today, it's on the verge of closure. Why do I say so? They were getting 270 million monthly before a subvention. It's been reduced to 96 million. The governor simply said that he cannot fund them. But you can't ignore it. Education is one of the fundamental objectives of government. You must educate your people. But out of economic considerations that I cannot understand, they are no longer being funded the way they were. 2 months ago, they had to go and borrow money from the bank. Last month, they couldn't pay. And what they are now contemplating is after the elections, they will increase astronomically the school fees in that place. That will be chaos. And that will mean that the children of the poor cannot access higher education. That will be unfortunate. The same thing with the university at Yamo, Edo State University at Yamo. The subvention there before was 100 million. It's been removed completely. For a young university to operate without subvention means that sooner or later they will collapse. Of course, there are so many others. The School of Nursing and Midwifery has been closed. The College of Education in Kadolo is closed. The College of Agric, Godaki is closed. These are all institutions that were established to offer tertiary education to our youths. Unfortunately, government has closed them. We're going to reopen them because we need them. There's no way our state can prosper. There's no way the future of our state can be guaranteed if we don't have educational institutions that can take them to a level where they can compete. There was a time when we were educationally disadvantaged because the quota system they were practicing did not favor us, and we didn't have the institutions. We didn't have. I remember when I went to University of Ife, I was told categorically that even though my marks were very, very high, but because I came from Bendel, that they will not take me because those ones, they have a higher mark, higher than those who come from the West or any other place. So there was a deliberate policy to reduce the number of people that came from our side. So it took the opening of University of Benin Law Faculty for many of us to be able to pursue our dreams. And that is the danger when you close institutions of higher learning in your place, because you put them in serious jeopardy outside. So we are going to focus on higher education, we'll focus on primary, we'll focus on secondary, and we're also going to focus on technical education. The Benin Technical College, I've always spoken about it, that when it was established, the idea was noble, and the place had a lot of potentials to really build up the capacity of our state. Unfortunately, subsequent governments did not see the vision, and they just relegated it and turned it to another school until the place collapsed. So I said that if I come into office, I intend to work on it. So when I heard that this government were working on it and we were even getting support from foreign countries, I was very glad. But how long does it take to rebuild, reconstruct, renovate a technical college. 4 years for me is too long. That place by now ought to be functioning, and we should have been replicating it in Edo North and Edo Central. We are going to create technical colleges. And we're also going to create skill acquisition centers so that those who did not have the benefit of formal education can at least enjoy these skill centers and be able to learn some skills that will make them be able to earn their livelihood.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I forgot about agriculture. Should I go into it?
No, I'll come back to you in a moment on that. If you just join us, you're on to Meet the Candidates on Independent Television and Radio. Today, our guest is the Edo State APC governorship candidate, Pastor Osagie Isayam. Just to let you know that this program is live on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our website. You can send your contributions, your comments, and all of that to any of our social media handles. And in the later part of the program, our studio line will also be open, so you can call and be part of the conversation. Let me come back to you. Maybe time now for you to tell us a bit more about agriculture. But in addition to that, I'd like to know, what's your take on the current internally generated revenue in Edo State, and how do you intend to raise the funds to be able to drive your government if you come into power?
Okay, let me quickly talk about agriculture, because you know I'm a farmer, and I believe so much in agriculture to the extent that I also have a training institute where I try to encourage youths and retirees going into agriculture. Our state is blessed. We have abundant land, the right climate, the soil is good, and every part of the state is practically an agricultural bed, every part of the state. If you go to Anegbete, for example, as a rice bed. If you go to the Owans, cashew nut, cocoa. If you go to Central, go to a place like Ilushi, rice, cassava. Come down to Edo South, oil palm, rubber, cassava, yams. So the potential in our state is huge. But unfortunately, we have not given the necessary support and encouragement to our people. We used to have a very, very solid ADP. But unfortunately, they just downplayed that agricultural program. And, today, I don't even know whether it is functioning. But if we deliberately identify the small-scale farmers that we have and support them, give them or help them to access financial support, help them with improved seedlings and technical support, you'll be surprised at what will happen. And then, of course, those who also want to embark on commercial farming will also be there to give them support. But like I said, this needed support that can turn the fortunes of thousands of farmers we have all over the state is not there. The Sobe farm that government attempted was a disaster. The rice project they also attempted was a disaster. And the 69 billion they've collected for oil palm program, nobody knows where that money went to. So government has not been able to articulate a well thought out program for agriculture, but we are going to do so. We know our areas of strength. When I was in government, deliberately, we established a fruit juice at Umode because of the abundant fruits in that place. But the whole factory was abandoned, laid to waste, and vandalized beyond repair. But in Uromi, we were also able to establish a cassavita factory, again because of the cassava that was in abundance there, and to give the farmers there the incentive to produce more cassava. So we put that factory there. But it will surprise you to know that nothing has been done about it. I am sure that the governor who is looking for those who will sign MOUs have never realized that his backyard at Uromi, there is a Casavita factory. I'm not sure he has ever visited the place. In his 4 years, I've never seen him going to visit such a place. Even companies here, he has never visited them. But charity begins at home. So agriculture is huge. Apart from the crops itself, there's so much we can also do in agro-related businesses. But let me also go into the IGRO. If you look at the statistics, the IGRO has not grown. And this reality puts a lie to the claim that in the past 4 years, we have seen economic progress. Where there's economic progress, it will translate into increased IGRO. But it's not there. Because if there are new companies, if there are new workers, you will see it in terms of taxes. And it will jack up the IGRO. But it's not there. It remains the same. Which means nothing has been done. No improvement has been done. Now to your question, how do you improve the IGRO? Simply by changing the business environment of the state. By government also becoming more responsible with what they are supposed to do. There are so many people who have refused to pay taxes because they look at themselves and say, look, what is government doing for us? We provide our own water, we provide security, we provide light, even our roads, we grade it ourselves, so why should I pay tax? And this argument is reasonable to a large extent. So we need to justify tax payment by the things that we do. So when you see a transparent government that is using state resources prudently, nobody will tell you that, look, you need to support what government is doing. Your road has been done. There's water. They will do so. And then you create an environment for businesses, security, infrastructure, all these things, public-private partnership will bring about businesses. When there is more businesses, of course the economy will boom. You know, ITV is a private concern that is employing people. And that's the reason why we need to encourage public-private partnership. Government sitting with organizations to ask them, what can we do to make you expand your scope? How are we patronizing local businesses? Because before somebody outside will come, due diligence requires that the person will ask those already inside, how is the business environment? If the man inside says, terrible, it's just that I'm already stuck here. My investment is here, the building, the equipment. What am I going to do with them? If I want to sell them, that will be scrap. Okay. So I have no choice, I have to stay. So those doing business in your state are actually the best people that can advertise you. And if they say, look, Edo State is beautiful, the government is wonderful, the people are nice, there's security, you will see so many people rushing in to come and do business. And before you know it, there are businesses all over the place. So we need to be able to interface with businesses in a manner that, you know, they will begin to replicate themselves and more businesses will grow. And if that happens, the IGRO will change. Our investment in agriculture will bring new businesses and new revenue to our state. Kebbi, look at what they are making from rice right now. During Christmas, trailers were leaving here to go and buy rice in Kebbi, to buy rice in Abakaleke. And the question is, the trailers come to Edo. All the trailers that come to Edo, they leave here empty. They're not carrying anything away. Okay. You are bringing meat, you are bringing food, you are bringing everything from the north. What are you taking away from Edo State? Nothing. Okay.
Let me pause you there and bring you up to speed with this question. The former governor of Edo State talked about revenue drive and said that...
Which former governor?
Yeah, former governor Adams Shomole once said that for you to be able to get revenue from certain class of people, you will need those class of people to be able to collect revenue from them. In a viral video, as part of this whole electionary campaign, you were seen interacting with some group of persons who describe themselves as lions and tigers. And some are saying that, well, that's more or less like a pact between you and them for them to return to the business of collecting taxes in Edo State. What's your response to this?
No. If you read the first edition of my simple agenda, I said that we will not support Agberos in our park. We want identified personnel of government collecting taxes. I don't also agree that you need strong men to collect taxes. No. Taxation should not be collected by force. The kind of taxation we want to do will be one that our people will be persuaded by the things we do to pay their taxes. I will not derive any joy locking our people or seizing their goods or putting them in jail because of tax offenses. We need to change their mindset to understand that we mean well for them. You know, and the video you're talking about now, in the course of campaign, you talk to everyone. Those people you are talking about are Edo-indigenes. They are Edo-indigenes. And not many of them, you know, are what you think they are. People can describe themselves in whatever term they want to describe themselves. But even if these people are not what you want them to be, it's the duty of government to transform them, to rehabilitate them, and make them what they should be. In Lagos State, they had area boys. But they have been able to convert them to artisans. And the level of business activity in Lagos has more or less trebled. So we should try to copy what is good, you know, and not begin to do name calling. The video I'm talking about now was a video that they doctored. I'm surprised they can even make reference to a video you don't know the source, you know, because in that video, I was talking to these people and I said, in the past, you move from unit to unit, and they removed in the past. And all they were playing was you move from unit to unit, as if to suggest that I was trying to go and rig election. We rig which election? Rig which election? When I know my standing with the Edo people and they know me. Last election, we all know what happened. Where they rigged and where they were destroying ballot papers. Who were affected? We saw ballot papers where people printed ballot paper in my favor and they were destroyed. It was not the reverse. So my history is very clear. I don't need talks to win elections. And I don't need to do what I've expressly criticized. We are going to implement a revenue collection that will stop wastages and stop leakages. The people you are talking about, let me tell you, even Agberos, for example. Agberos are touts in the park. And many of them became touts because there was nothing else to do. So if you want to stop these people from collecting government revenue, then try and also create alternatives for them. But also remember that what led to this situation was also the fraud being perpetuated by council staff at that time. You know, where they realized that most of the money was being diverted. People were doing their own tickets, you know, rather than issuing out council tickets, you issue out your own, and the short was very poor. But again, people have a way of bastardizing every system. So what was brought to also improve revenue also became bastardized, and at the end, nothing was coming in. But I believe that technology are so advanced that we can collect revenue in a transparent manner without even the use of physical cash.
Let me just take you upon your assessment of the health care system in the state currently and the industrialization drive. And what's your policy thrust to improve what is already on the ground? Or are you of the opinion that there is nothing absolutely on the ground?
No, right now it's very bad. Very, very bad. And I had a debate with the governor and I was shocked when he said that their focus was on primary healthcare centers, and that for now they're not looking at hospitals. And I had to remind him that primary healthcare centers deal with very minor ailments. They are supposed to just be reference centers, you know, for those who are not seriously sick. But anybody who is seriously sick is supposed to go to the hospital. So when the state government that is supposed to actually handle secondary health institutions, like hospitals, now say that they are not too interested in it, it means that you do not even understand the role you should play in the health sector. Primary healthcare centers are actually supposed to be established by local governments. And if local governments are not doing so, it's also your fault, because the Constitution gives you oversight functions to supervise these local governments. It's not enough to just give money to them every month. You must also ensure that they do what they ought to do. Our hospitals are in very bad condition. In the entire state, we have less than 200 doctors in in the health management board. Or if you look at HIV prevalence rate, very high in Edo, infant mortality, maternal mortality, all very high. All these indices show that we are not doing well in the health sector. The primary healthcare centers have collapsed. They are not functioning. The governor promised that he was going to rehabilitate them and equip them in all the wards, the 192 wards. He was only able to do 22. 22 is around 11%, which is failed. He failed it, you know. And there are no personnel. Before, we used to encourage youth corpers to be posted to these places and give them some stipends to encourage them, rural posting and the rest of them. But today, that policy is not being pursued, so nobody is there. Nurses are not there. Like I told you, the health center, the School of Nursing has been closed now for 3-4 years. So we in future, we're even going to be in trouble because we won't have nurses. So primary healthcare centers are out of it. Now, the hospitals. We are supposed to have around 34 hospitals in our state. But how many are functional? How many are functional? The so-called flagship, before we built Sheila Obasanjo Hospital, the so-called flagship was supposed to be the central hospital that was built in 1903. Comrade Adams Oshomole came and decided to rebuild the hospital, but in phases. So he did phase 1. And a beautiful structure. But surprisingly, to open it became a subject of controversy. For 2 years, the hospital was locked. So the people had no choice but to continue to patronize the old dilapidated one. But when it was finally opened, as if to punish Edo people, it was given out to a private consultant who's not even a doctor. And a private consultant is running the place as a commercial center. To collect card there, you must have at least 5 or 25,000 naira. So that place is inaccessible to our poor people. To go to the old one, yes, with 500 naira, they can still take you. Now, what kind of segregation is that? Where government will build hospitals or hospital in a place, one is for the rich, one is for the poor. The one that is for the poor do not even have X-ray facilities. Because the X-ray that used to be in the old complex was destroyed in the process of building this complex. So all our people today resort to either the federal government-owned University of Teaching Hospital, the one at Irwa, or private hospitals. Okay. Faith Medical Complex, Lily Hospital, Philomena Hospital, that's where they now go to. Okay. So the hospitals are in very bad state. There are no doctors, there are no equipments. And these equipments are things that you can get with ease. You can easily arrange a deal with many of these multinational companies, whereby they can give you these equipments, maybe use the word lease you this equipment, and you pay over time. Okay. They produce these things and they are looking for markets where they can offload them. So they'll be very happy if you say, look, I want this equipment, I want this equipment, I want this equipment, and they help you install it and train your people.
Okay, let's open our studio line so we'll be able to get contributions from our listeners and our viewers from across the world who are part of this program right now on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as on our website at www.itvradionnigeria.com. Our studio number is on the screen, 052-290-573. That number right now. Let's get your question for the APC governorship candidate in Edo State governorship election, Pastor Sagi Isayamo. Please, we have our rules of engagement. Do not call names. Do not cast aspersion on anyone. Be as brief as possible because others are waiting. And do not cast aspersion on anyone. Make your question as simple as can be, so we'll be able to take as many questions as possible or contributions as the case may be. Let's have our first caller now. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name? Please endeavor to turn down the audio level on your TV or radio so we'll be able to have a meaningful conversation. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name? Please turn down the audio level on your TV or radio.
Hello?
Turn down the audio level on your TV or radio.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. What's your name?
Hello?
Yes, good evening. What's your name?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Please go ahead. We lost that call. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
Hello. Good evening.
Yes, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, my name is Vicky Rufus Alele, calling from Benin.
Yes, go ahead, Rufus.
Yeah, I want to commend the APC gubernatorial candidate.
Okay.
Because I remember when he was the secretary to government, that was when my own community, Amal, had light. And again, during this campaign, he also supported us by way because the road was becoming unmotorable. So he assisted us again to make that place motorable. I want to commend him and also assure him that we'll have my vote on September 19th.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Deacon Rufus, for your contribution. Hello, caller. Good evening, and tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Yeah, good evening.
What's your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Sydney. I'm calling from Benin City.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Please, I just have one question for the APC gubernatorial candidate there.
Okay.
Sir, in the whole of Benin metropolis, the street lights are not working. There's no street light that is working. We want to beg you, if you come on board, will you please make those street lights work because of the insecurity we are facing in Benin City? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I answer that question?
Yes, quickly.
Yes, I want to thank you for that question. Those street lights were very good. It beautifies the city. It creates a night economy. It also helps to provide security because where there's light, it's difficult for criminals to operate. Now, I have also been very worried about the situation now where we are back to darkness. And people had mentioned that, the generators that were meant to support the light were removed by this government, and because of that, that was the problem. But when I made inquiries, I was shocked to find out that it's not really so. Most of these street lights are on dedicated lines, which means they are supposed to get light minimum of 18 hours every day. But they were also installed prepaid meters on this light, so that as you utilize this light, you pay. The problem is that government has not been paying. All that is required to bring this light back is for government to pay for the consumption. And of course, when do we don't use these lights 24 hours. They are only meant to be used at night. You don't put on street lights in the daytime when it's bright, when God gives us sun. So it's supposed to be at night. So really, the charges should not even be that prohibitive or that expensive for government not to pay. Okay. So I want to assure you that not only are we going to ensure that we pay our obligations to BEDC so that there will be light, we are going to put more street lights because we need it in our cities.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
Good evening. My name is Amos.
Amos, where are you calling us from?
From Benin.
Go ahead.
Please, I want the election to be free and fair. So that's why I'm calling. I don't want it. I want the peaceful election.
It's noted, Amos. It's noted. Thank you. Our studio number is still on the screen. Please go ahead with your contribution. Please turn down the audio level on your TV or radio. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
Good evening. My name is Victor from Benin.
Victor, go ahead.
I want to ask the governor candidate of APC. But I heard that you were saying that there was a perimeter in this street light. But I noticed that there was generation one at the Ring Road, First Bank there was generating this power street light. But you are telling us that we have perimeter. How would you do that when you become the governor in those states? But we are hearing that it was a generator. The power is the diesel. That's why the government cannot be able to do that.
Well, I didn't quite hear you, but let me tell you that the generators that were installed were supposed to be backups to the lights. But I heard those have been removed, but that is not really the problem. I'm saying that most of these street lights, if you know the kind of streets they were put in, they are put on major highways. Most of them actually are on dedicated lines. And because they are on dedicated lines, the electrification supply to those areas are a minimum of 18 hours a day. and it gets as much as 23 hours. So it's almost like light all the time. Now, BEDC, the distribution company, cannot do it for free. So as they put this light, they also put prepaid meters, which means if your meter runs out, it goes off. But if you pay, it's on. And what government needed to do was to pay. Constantly check them and ensure they are paid. So I'm telling you that if we are in government, we would ensure that we pay these things, we pay the monies regularly. Because it's something that is quite wonderful. There are so many advantages in having those street lights. We have talked about beautification, we've talked about economy, we've talked about security. So it's a plus and a win-win. But the only thing is that government must do its part. It's not for free. So what we have to do is that pay. Are we going to tell those around those roads to come and put money together to pay? No. Those are some of the few things that government should pay.
Okay.
And I think if we do that, we'll have regular light on the streets.
Yeah. Yes, good evening. We'll take your call now, but just to let our listeners on radio know that the studio number is 052-290-573. Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
Good afternoon. My name is Usapama Odiase. I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
The man I've been speaking very okay.
Okay.
So I want to say something. If he become the governor of Edo State, how can he develop a visual person that has skin like me? You see the sound of my guitar.
Okay.
So how can them develop a visual person that has skin?
Okay.
And that can they create a place, the society that will be friendly to the visual person.
Okay. He's asking.
Like now,
yes. Your question is
very difficult to create the express road.
Okay.
And also, technical school they are talking about is close to my place because I live at Universal Bus Stop.
Okay.
As a bus street there.
Okay.
Okay. Now, how can the visual person benefit from things that is going on in technical school?
Okay.
So please, I want them to throw more light on those areas.
Okay. Apparently, he's a visually impaired person, physically challenged person. I know that he's probably speaking for several others across the state. What is the policy thrust of the Simple Agenda in addressing the plights of physically challenged persons in the state?
We must make provision for them in public buildings and in our infrastructural designs. Right now, when we build schools, we don't even consider that we have people with disabilities. That is wrong. So we must create, we must deliberately design schools and public places that they will be able to access, and we must consider them. In our Simple Agenda, we took them into consideration. The social welfare program of the Simple Agenda talks about being able to look into their needs and alleviate their problems, because certainly they are being totally neglected by government. The School of the Blind, for example, is just an all-comers affair. The School of the Blind is the same one that would handle people with other disabilities. No, okay. You know, this thing should be separated.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, caller. Good evening. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good evening. My name is Dominic.
Where is Dominic calling us from?
I'm calling from GRO, sir.
Yes, Dominic, go ahead.
Well, sir, I don't know why the present government stopped the water storm project. Because today, all over Benin, if it rains, I bet you, we're all finished. Sir, if we dedicate power, will you please assist the people in completing that water storm project? Thank you very much.
Yes, my brother, I agree with you. We must complete it. It's in the Simple Agenda. Even when I was in opposition with the government, I considered that the project was good, it was necessary. The only thing I questioned was how much will it finally cost and when will it be completed. But the project actually brought a lot of relief to many homes. I remember the Esogma of Benin, to access his house during rainy season was a nightmare. Sometimes we have to park roads away, roll our trousers, and say we can access the house. And I used to wonder, how does he go home? How does he stay in the house? But today, even no matter how heavy the rain is, he's able to drive into his compound. So which means that what has been done so far has been effective, but it must be completed. And I am quite disturbed that Governor Obaseki, who was the chief economic advisor to Governor Oshomole, and actually his company, AfriInvest, facilitated the money that was gotten at the capital market. It was AfriInvest that facilitated, and they got a huge commission. So one would have thought that there would be a moral body to ensure that that project was speedily completed, rather than being abandoned. To abandon it means that you are going to compound the problem and make it worse. So let me assure you that we will certainly complete the stormwater project.
Okay. Just before we take more calls, because you made reference to the former Governor, Comrade Adams Oshomole, in several of your presentations. Who is he to you? Is he your godfather?
I think that Ipo just tried deliberately to be mischievous, because you yourself know that that is not correct.
I'm asking you a question.
No, you know it. I'm telling you.
I'm asking you a question.
You know it's not correct. He's not my godfather. I don't have a godfather apart from God himself. As far back as 2005, I said, I formed the Grace Group with the slogan, "No man is God," and you all know the history. And Oshomole himself came and fought against no godfatherism. So the fact that today we are in the same boat is just God. And you're also forgetting that I supported him in the past. So what he's just simply doing is paying me back, because I was DG of his campaign and helped him to become governor. So if the man decides to support me tomorrow, he's convenient to call him godfather. So nobody can support me. At my age and my experience in politics, you yourself know that it would be wrong to call anybody my godfather, not in Edo State.
Are you bothered in any way by somebody thinks Comrade Adams Oshomole said about you in 2016, in spite of all of these things that you say you did for him?
If I wasn't bothered when he said it then, why will I be bothered now that he has retracted it and said it was wrong information, it was wrong? He just said it because he had nothing else to say. He needed to demarket me because his candidate had nothing. So to be able to, promote his candidate and demarket me, I have to say what he said. But even 4 years ago, did you ask me if I was worried about it? I was not worried. Even the result that I got will make you know that the two people did not even take that seriously. So what I was not worried about when it was said 4 years ago. Is it now, after when the person is saying, I apologize, I did say that, I will be worried about it? So that is completely irrelevant.
Let's take a few more calls. Hello, caller, good evening. What's your name and where you calling from? Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Hello, caller, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, what's your name and where you calling from?
Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name?
I'm calling from Opasakumba.
Opasakumba, yes, go ahead.
I know with my name.
Osagbovo, go ahead.
I want to thank the Pastor Isaiah Yamu for what he's saying. And what I'm going to say is this, that all of his things, he is to the bottom of his heart. And will it be a reality to us? Because we have seen something like you, they will tell us, they will do this, they will do this, and they to power, we will not see anything.
Okay. Let me just let's respond to that question. All that you have said so far, are they coming from the bottom of your heart? What is the guarantee of all that you have said tomorrow? Yes.
Well, you see, the beautiful thing about what I'm saying is that it's also written. It's in this book. So I'm not just speaking because I want to please the audience. What I'm saying is from the heart, well thought out, articulated in written form, so that people can measure my achievement by what I wrote. So this is a covenant, it's a written document, it's a contract. It's what I have promised to do. And in presenting it, I'm conscious of the fact that it's a reference of what I said. The governor made a lot of promises, but they were empty. They were never written. Even the so-called mega agenda now, where is the document? But I'm proud to present this document to the world. Everywhere I go, I carry it because I mean it. And by the grace of God, I will implement it.
Hello, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, please. Turn down the volume on your radio or television. What's your name?
Fred.
Fred, go ahead.
I just want to ask the question asked at the beginning of the program that if the man is desperate to become a governor, that's why I want to lay more fast.
No, if you heard the question at the beginning,
if you don't desperation,
yes, you heard the question. You heard the question at the beginning of the program. You heard the question, and you also heard the answer at the beginning of the program. So we'll give that opportunity to another person.
The next question.
What was the next question?
The simple agenda. What you want to do for the first year. How are you going to raise the money? Because we know the allocation that is coming to
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
Can someone get that kind huge of money to establish what he's saying that he wants to do for the first year? How will he go to raise
Okay,
the money?
let's get him to respond to that question. Revenue for driving the simple agenda.
You know, because we have not been running a transparent government, people do not even know the resources of our state. The government collects close to 7 billion monthly, apart from other sources of revenue. So if you take a government that is prudent, a government that is focused, you will realize that so much can be achieved with these resources. IGRO, even though it has stagnated, is an average of around 2 billion a month. So these resources are more than enough to implement what is on this simple agenda. What is important is prudence. Borrowing that this government has resorted to, for me, is a last resort. And if I must borrow, and of course you can go to the capital market, there are so many multilateral agencies that you can get money from. But if you must borrow, I will also want to know what I want to use that money for, to justify what I'm taking. I don't want to put the state in debt. I want to ensure that whatever I'm spending money on, apparently borrowed money, is something that can generate resources back to pay back that debt and to push the state. Peter Obi, to be fair to him, when he was governor of Imo State, was able to create a lot of revenue investments, including the beauty. And today, the state is very buoyant. Unfortunately, our attempts at investment has been a flop. So for me, this agenda can be implemented. And what you don't even know is that it's not as expensive as the governor tried to portray, because they play with figures. For me, I'm a financial manager. I may not be an expert, but I'm a financial manager. I'm extremely prudent in how I spend money. Security vote will take care of the investment in security. I'm not going to be looking for extra money from government. Although, yes, we can ask private individuals to support our security trust fund. But I do not need to create new heads because I want to fund education. So if you have a government that is focused, that is prudent, these things can be achieved. What this government has received in the past 4 years is mind-boggling. Don't forget that they got over 20 billion from bailout. Don't forget about the Paris Club refund. Don't forget about the $75 million for C4 project. When you look at this project, and then the money they have borrowed locally and externally, you will realize that all the money that they have collected would have transformed the dough if there was transparency, there was honesty, and there was focus. You asked me just now about industry. I didn't have the time to respond. But look at the poor attempt at industrialization. I believe that we must increase the level of industrialization of our state. We cannot be content with calling our state a civil service state. But look at, I've seen adverts, Osiomo Power. Oh, look at what we have built. That is a lie. Edo State government has nothing to do with the Osiomo Power plant. It was actually started in 1914. And at that time, Governor Obaseki was not in office. Or you want to look at the refinery, which was the federal government initiative, and Edo State government has less than 1% share in it. Or is it the industrial park they tried to kickstart and call the vice president to come and do the groundbreaking, gave a Chinese firm 3.3 billion as consultancy, and said in 6 months it will be functional? It's not. In fact, the whole land there is in controversy. So again, another project not well thought out. So if we have a governor that is prudent, a governor that is focused, I can tell you that even with what we get from the federation account, what we are going to get from IGRO, and what diversification of the economy will bring based on our intervention in security, infrastructure, manpower development, and public-private partnership, you will find out that even without resorting to borrowing, we would have more than enough funds to fund our projects. We are also going to have an economic management team. I think one of the issues that we faced in the past was that Okromole tried to form an economic team, but the president governor was just the chairman and more or less the sole member. That is wrong. We need to bring in competent economic experts, and they are from our state, to give us direction on how we should manage our economy. I'm also thinking, within 6 months of entering office, we need to have an international development summit for Edo. We're going to leverage on our people who are well connected in diaspora. We are also going to look at the idea of a diaspora fund, because there are so many of our people abroad who want to invest at home. But the problems we have identified, like security, infrastructure, is what has put them off.
Okay.
So when they have a government that is focused, they are going to see more revenue coming into our state.
Okay, let me take this call. Hello, caller. Good evening. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good evening, sir. My name is Testan Osadaye, calling from Tel Aviv, Israel.
Osadaye, you're calling us from Israel.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is to Pastor. Pastor, good evening.
It's greeting you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead with your question.
I just want to know what kind of plan do we have for the Jews in diaspora. We know we have a lot of contribution to the development of the Jewish state.
Okay.
So what kind of agenda do we have for us in diaspora? How can we secure our coming back home?
Okay.
Yeah.
Diaspora
thank
agenda.
you. I wish I could get you a copy of the simple agenda. You will find out that we devoted a part of it to diaspora engagement. We are very, very grateful to the role people have played in the sustenance of our state. That our state is functional today is attributable largely to the funds we continue to bring in. Foreign remittance. Edo State is the second largest inflow. And most of that money is coming from people like you who are working so hard. But unfortunately, government has not been able to tap on this set of people. It's not enough that you are sending remittance back home. We have not engaged you. We also need to engage your intellectual experience. Many of you have worked in factories. Many of you have been able to manage corporations. We need you to help us revive industries. We need you to help us handle our water problem. We need you to help us manage businesses. So we are going to interface with you. We are going to create a foreign desk that would discuss with you on a regular basis. And we are going to make Edo safe for you to come to. Many of you are abroad because of the insecurity you hear. You are afraid of coming here, you are kidnapped. You are killed, God forbid. So we are going to make sure that you can come here and feel safe. Not only in the daytime, but even at night.
Okay.
And we are going to support any business you want to do. Anytime you want to do a business, we are ready to sit with you and interact with you. We will help you acquire land. We will help you with financial support. Whatever we need to do to make you establish here, we'll be willing to do so. So there's going to be a robust engagement with the diaspora.
Okay. We've got you on the program, Meet the Candidates and their parties on ITV Radio. What's your name and tell us where you're calling us from? Hello, caller. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Osadaye. I'm calling from.
We can barely hear you. I don't know if the challenge is from our end or from your end, but you need to speak up a little bit so we can hear you, please.
Okay. I'm glad I got you. I was even thinking this line having going. Like I said, I'm calling from Benin.
Where are you calling us from exactly?
Benin City.
Okay.
You Benin City.
Okay, go ahead.
I missed I don't know how long it started. I just got home. So
do you have a question or a contribution?
Yes. I have a question.
What's the question?
I am involved in agriculture, and when Pastor was debating with governor, I heard what he said about the Sode farm. Incidentally, I was involved in that Sode farm, and I can state categorically that today we don't have time to talk that. Now, what will Pastor do to help us farmers when it comes?
Unfortunately, I couldn't really get the question that you asked. If it's possible, unfortunately, we'd also have more time to continue this conversation. But just before we let the APC governorship candidate go, Pastor Sagi Ezeyamu. If you lose on Saturday, would you accept?
I just asked what you do for farmers.
Okay.
As I said, I was involved in your program.
Yes.
And I know that it was a scam. The chapter was even very nice when he got it.
Okay. All right. So, what's the project for farmers? I mean, I'm sure we talked about a lot of that with the agricultural segment of the simple agenda. Yes. Maybe just quickly respond to that a little bit.
I think
and then my last question.
I think I've mentioned that we need to support our small farmers and those into commercial farming. We need to help them to access financial credit, financial support. We need to help them with equipment, technology, improve seedlings. So there's so much we can do for farmers. Basically, they are in their thousands in our state, and we believe that with the adequate support, they'll be able to do a lot more. So we intend to coordinate farming activities in our state, ensure that our farmers are not left alone, support them, and help them to process their goods, create markets for them, and also enter into agro production. So by the time we do that, we believe that they would also have a secured market. Okay. Now, if
you lose, will you accept?
Why do you think I will lose?
It's a question.
No. If you are asking a question, you're asking a negative question. I can assure you that I will win overwhelmingly.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you also know too that the last time, you know what happened. So I can assure you that this time, the votes will count, and I will win overwhelmingly.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sagi Ezeyamu, the Edo State APC governorship candidate for the governorship election scheduled for this Saturday. Tomorrow, Thursday, by 4 p.m., we'll be having the PDP governorship candidate here. Pastor Sagi Ezeyamu, thank you for honoring our invitation. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And that's it on our program today. I want to say big thanks to all our viewers across the world on YouTube. We're seeing all your comments. Some of them are very toxic. We can't take them here. And then from Facebook, a whole lot of you are also commenting and contributing. Just want to let you know we appreciate your participation on the program today. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. when we'll have the PDP governorship candidate here. On behalf of all of us here, my name is Sonny Duke Okosun. Thanking you for staying with us. Have a very good evening.
My name is Professor Idia Ezeyamu, the wife of Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, the gubernatorial candidate of the APC for the Edo State election coming up on the 19th of September 2020. The primary healthcare system, which is currently in a very bad state in all the senatorial districts, are going to be repaired. The hospitals need equipment, they need beds, they need doctors, they need nurses, they need personnel. Vote for him because he's a man who knows. He knows because his wife is a medical practitioner. He knows because he lives among the people. And many of them come to him complaining about the challenges they face in accessing healthcare. We are taking our healthcare system from the old-fashioned way to the modern and digital age. Vote for Pastor Osage Ezeyamu. Vote for APC.
Appreciation. The House of Igbenedion wishes to express deep gratitude to all those who identified with our patriarch, His Excellency Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel Osawawu Igbenedion, JP, the Esama of Benin, during his 86th birthday. We are most obliged for the love openly displayed by friends and well-wishers who inspired across the world who joined in the celebration through ITV